magic. In time, Merlin and Nimue left Earth for the next world in need of their guidance. But that was not the end of Merlin's gift. For the children of the Magi are born mortal, but with the potential to become vampires and witches themselves. These latents transform only if one of the Magi makes love to them in adulthood. Repeated exposure to the Magi or Magus's passion triggers Merlin's gift within them, making them powerful and immortal. Then it becomes their duty to join the great mission, guiding and protecting humanity. But always from behind a cloak of secrecy. For Magikind well knows if humanity ever discovers their existence, fear and politics may motivate mortals to war against them, thus triggering the very catastrophe they were created to prevent. To avoid that danger, the Magikind live on Magverse Earth in the mystical city of Avalon, forever hidden and unknown to those they protect. Yet because it is sometimes necessary to work more openly with mortal governments, each nation is assigned a vampire champion. It's the champion's task to work in secret with certain trustworthy mortal leaders, while keeping their allies in ignorance of the Magikind. 'Tis no easy path to walk, and it takes a special man to walk it. This is the story of one such champion, and the latent he came to love. Merlin's Grimoire. Prologue. Charlestown, South Carolina, September 10th, 1780. Candlelight from the massive chandelier overhead shimmered over satin, brocade, and the brilliant scarlet of British regimentals. Somebody played a violin with more vigor than skill, competing with the sound of dancing feet in the ballroom across the hall. Laughter rang out, a little too heartily from loyalist planters, and a little too smugly from the redcoat conquerors who now occupied Charlestown. Rhys Champion sipped his wine and smiled down at the pretty Tory who was under the delusion he'd make a good husband. The square-cut décolletage of her brocade gown framed a pair of lovely breasts that would have claimed his full attention under different circumstances. As it was, though, Rhys was far more interested in a conversation between two British lieutenants who stood nearby. "By fall, Tarleton will have that fox's tail," one of them said, his voice slurring slightly. God, Rhys loved a drunk. They made a spy's job so much easier. He'd come to Charlestown 3 months ago, not long after the port had fallen to a 6-week British siege. Since then, Rhys had managed to establish himself as a rabid loyalist bitter about abuses he'd suffered at the hands of his patriot neighbors. It was a believable cover. In the southern colonies, the campaign for independence had taken on all the viciousness of a civil war. His pose had been convincing enough to win Rhys acceptance among a few Tory hostesses eager to curry favor with the invaders. Most of the city was less enthusiastic about the occupation, so the British welcomed the distraction of whatever dinners and balls the Loyalists cared to host. Rhys made himself equally popular, largely by way of deep pockets and a feigned willingness to let the redcoats fleece him over cards. Even as he smiled and lost, he collected a steady stream of useful intelligence he could pass on to his patriot contacts. And he wasn't the only one taking advantage of redcoat gullibility. Rhys had assembled a ring of patriot agents who circulated among the British and Tory militia. Any information they collected, he sent to patriot commanders like Francis Marion, whom the British had christened the Swamp Fox. There was a certain irony to the whole thing, of course. Magikind vampires like Rhys had served British interests for centuries, yet now they were helping England's rebellious colonies break that country's yoke. It had not been a popular decision among the Magikind High Council, at least not at first. Luckily, enough of the Magi had experienced enough visions to convince them the fledgling United States needed her independence. So now,